Okay. Vayavo Elima, they came to Elim. Vesham, Mayim, there were 12 springs of water, Veshivim Tamarim, and 70 palm trees. Vayachanu Shama Mayim, and they camped there on the water, and the 70 palm trees corresponded to the 70, Rashi says, Keneged Shivim Zakanim, corresponding to the 70 elders. And the Shtemes Re'enu the 12 springs of water, corresponding to the, Rashi says, corresponding to the 12 tribes that were prepared for them. Shnei Masar Shvatim Nizdam Noahem. Now we go to chapter 16, verse 1. Vayisume Elim. They traveled from Elim, Vayavo Kol Adas, Bnei Yisrael, Al Midbar Sin. They came to the Sin wilderness, which is between Elim and Sinai. Now, where is this wilderness? That's much dispute today. I think it's in Saudi Arabia. You see, it even has the same Samach. Sin, Saudi Arabia, sounds the same, right? So they came to Sin. That was between Elim and Sinai, 15th day of the month that they left Egypt. Rashi says, Nisparesh Hayom Shachaniyazu. The date of this camp was stated explicitly because on that day, they brought out food, biscuits, cookies, cakes. On that day that they brought out the cakes, they finished it on the 15th day. What month are we in? The 15th day of Iyar. They brought out enough food for 60 meals that they ate from the leftover dough, 61 meals. 61 meals, 16 days of the month of Nisan, and they had 2 meals a day. And so therefore they lasted all the way until the 15th day of the month of Iyar. And then when did the Manna come down for the first time? On the 16th day of Iyar. On the 16th day of Iyar. And the first day was a Shabbos, and it was a Sunday. Hello, Reb David. So the first day, hold on, I want to just get another commentary here. So, hold on. So, you know, our friend Nathan, he's here too. Yes. He's so the 15th day of the 16th day of the month of Iyar, the first day, it was a Sunday. And so therefore, that was the first day. We're about to see something special. Vayilonu kol adas b'nei Yisrael al Moshe v'Aaron b'midbar. So now they were running out of food. They ran out of food. So all of a sudden, everybody started to complain. Why are they complaining? Because they ran out of food. And it's so amazing. If anybody ever feels underappreciated in your life, you ever feel like maybe you're maybe in your place of work, or maybe you're members of your family, you feel underappreciated, you are no more underappreciated than God. Okay, so God has done everything for Bnei Yisrael. And then the second you're in good company with your God and Moshe. God and Moshe did everything Bnei Yisrael, and then they miss one meal. All of a sudden, they start complaining. I've been reading this book. I don't know, Nathan is a voracious reader. Nathan, have you ever read the book? I mean, it's really not a book. It's more like a pamphlet, Letter to Father by Kafka.
I haven't yet.
Okay.
I'll look it up.
I'm reading this book. I'm reading this. I read it already once with Rabbi Mintz, and I'm reading it again. And to my mind, it's a whole debate amongst the Kafka scholars. Is this really a letter to his actual father, or is it symbolic? And I read it as a letter to God, and to our Father in heaven. And Kafka writes, he begins like he says, I know that you've done so much for me, and I'm not grateful. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's what it is. And the whole description is our relationship with God. Did you read this, David? I see you smiling. Yeah. What do you think of this letter to Father?
I have read it for about 50 years, but it's an extraordinary personal piece, which he talks about a struggle with his father, which was just the core to his life, struggle.
Yeah, it's a whole debate about whether or not his father ever got it. Some say he gave it to his mother and never got it, but it is like Kafka is he's just such an incredible author because his writing is actually terrible. But what he does is he has these insights. I don't know if his writing is terrible because we're reading the translation, but he's just like got these insights that are so piercing. They're so piercing, like nobody else in the world ever. And they're so simple, but yet so piercing. And I'm reading, if anybody is ever looking for a work to read, I want to suggest this book by Kafka because I'm reading it and reading it and reading it, and I find it very powerful. So anyway, all of a sudden they start complaining. They're ungrateful. Like Kafka is ungrateful to his father. So too the children of Israel are ungrateful here. Yeah. So yes.
Maybe if we take Rav Levi Yitzchak Berditchev's approach, they
Yeah.
recognize that he's the father and that they can't talk to him directly, or at least they didn't think they can talk to him directly. So they talked to Moshe, and Moshe himself in Parshat Be'alotcha says, "Am I their wet nurse? Right? I'm their nanny." So it's on the one hand he suffered because of it, but on the other hand, it's better that they talk to him as opposed to false gods, right? Like he said,
Okay, so
am I their wet nurse, right? Kasher isa haomen et hayonek, right? The baby. So don't know.
no, it's you mentioned Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, so I have a story about him. I'm going to mention it to you because you brought him up, Rabbi Yosef. So I love it. You got this going in my mind. So here's an incident with Rabbi Levi Yitzchak that he said in his whole life he never fought with anybody. Rabbi Yosef, he never fought with anybody. So they asked him, "Didn't you have any?" You had a problem because apparently Rabbi Levi Yitzchak himself, when he was a rabbi in this town of Zolachov, he had a disagreement with members of the community and he had to leave. So didn't you have a problem with the people who were against you when you were the rav of that community? So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak said, no. They were fighting against me and I was quiet. So he said, also with respect to Aaron, he loved peace and he pursued peace. It says that all of the children of Israel complained to Moshe and Aaron. Bnei Yisrael were the ones who complained. But when there was a fight, it says they fought with Moshe, but Aaron wasn't involved. Aaron didn't respond. So that's like Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. He said, I never got into a fight with somebody. He said, well, what about when you had problems with your shul? He said, well, they fought with me. I didn't fight with them. It's something to remember. What? I mean, I guess so. There's also sometimes you have to fight back, but not Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. He never did. He never fought back. Okay, and the truth is, to this day, nobody thinks twice about anything whatsoever that those people in that shul said to Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. But every gem that we have, every word that we have from Rabbi Levi Yitzchak is a gem upon a gem upon a gem. So they were looking at the moment, and Rabbi Levi Yitzchak had the perspective, the vision of the future. If you ever find the book about Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, then you share that with me, Nathan. I would love to read it if you ever find something. Vayomru aleim bnei Yisrael, and the children of Israel said to Moses and Aaron, Mi yutenu mutenu biyad Hashem eretz Yisrael. We would have rather died by the hand of God in Egypt. Bishaftenu al sir abasar, ba'achleinu lechem wasova, ki yotzeitem otanu al midbar zel amit et kol hakal zeberav. They said, we would have rather died in Egypt from God when we were sitting by the pots filled with meat and eating bread and being satisfied, but instead you took us out to this wilderness to kill this whole community by hunger. Yeah, yes.
At the hand of God, you would have rather die. I mean, why is it died by the hand of God? What is it that God would have done to them?
Well, Rashi doesn't tell us, but it's a very good question. And I was thinking maybe by like the plagues that they gave upon the Egyptians.
That we would have been subject to.
Yeah, we would have rather died for them plagues. So I think that's what's going on here. But the Rashi doesn't say anything. But it's a very good point. But now there's another point here also in this verse. Notice what they say. Such a bunch of they said, we remember how we sat in Egypt by the pots of meat, and we ate the bread. They weren't even eating the meat in Egypt. Well, everybody else was having a party. That just shows how warped their thinking is. They're sitting by the pots of meat. The Egyptians are eating the meat, and they're eating bread. And that's what they're saying. That's their twisted memory. They're saying, well, we remember those flesh pots, but we didn't even get to eat that.
There's an amazing scene from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Let me hear.
The girl Scout,
Yeah.
a mother told her story. She gets invited to a friend's house for dinner.
Yeah.
The mother tells her story when she was a little girl that she made the mistake of, she was offered the last portion and she took it and ate it, and everyone else knew that meant the maid would go hungry that night.
Oy.
Because the maid just lived off of the leftovers. Well, the story goes on that she gets invited, they have the meal that her mother had, so she's all ready to do the right thing and make up for her mother's mistake. But then everyone else has seconds, and she's the last one because she's eating so carefully. And they offer her the last portion. And this is her chance to shine, and she won't accept it, but everybody else was already eating, and they're insisting. And then someone pipes up, don't worry, the maid has her portion separate.
Oh, okay, nice. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to just opine about that. I actually don't think it was necessarily the person at the dinner table's fault, but I think it was the responsibility of the family, because there's something wrong with the value system that's all you give the maid, that's all you give somebody working in your house. And
Yeah.
I'm saying that if they wanted to, they could have had other food for her too. So that's what I would argue.
Yeah, but I think you're right, but I also think as a general rule, you shouldn't, if there's only one piece left, you shouldn't take it. Never know, like always, don't take the last piece. Always make sure to leave stuff over.
That's the humble approach, but my experience, if I may, Nathan, my experience having grown up in second world countries
Yeah.
is that the second level, the support staff, the
Yeah.
maids, they make do with whatever's left over, and often they do go hungry, and it's something that is so normal, so normalized that people feel they deserve it. I have a friend I lived with, whoever you've met, was a friend that I had out of Villa.
Yeah.
He had to leave India because he was campaigning on behalf of the rights of Dalits, the lowest level of society, the untouchables. Anyway, there's a very struggle there to now equalize a society that has 1,000 years of believing that there are levels of growth, levels of birthright society.
Interesting. Thank you. So now we're going to get up to the Manna. So it says, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, and God says to Moshe, I'm going to rain down for you bread from the heaven. Too, and the people go out and collect it to Vayom Biyomo. That they'll go out every single day. So I'll test them, or I'll test him. So I'll test him whether he's walking in my Torah or not. So let me ask you the question: how is this a test of God? How is this a test? God says, I'm raining down manna from the heavens every day, and this will test if you're going in my Torah or not, if you're following my path of the Torah. Rashi says you're going to eat, what is it every day? The need for that day, you'll collect that day, and you won't collect today for tomorrow. So why is this a test? How is this a test? The manna is coming every day. Yes, Reb David.
There was a footnote.
Yeah, what does it say?
Earlier that their anxiety wasn't over the food they had when they were complaining. Their anxiety wasn't over the food they had that day. Their anxiety was whether or not they're concerned about whether they'd have food tomorrow. So the test is to see whether or not they'll have confidence in that. So you only
In this plan.
for that one day.
Just taken for that one day. Beautiful. So this is what Rashi says. Rashi says, I'll test him when we go in my Torah, because there's a lot of mitzvos connected to the manna. that that they shouldn't leave it over, that they won't go out on Shabbos, they won't go out on Shabbos to collect it. So these are special laws about the man. So the test is, will they keep the laws? Will they collect it on Shabbos, which we know that they didn't. But I saw once from a letter of Gomen of blessed memory. His daughter, Chana Benjamin, wrote a beautiful commentary on the Torah. And it was heavily based upon Rabbi Breidowitz's shiurim. Rabbi Breidowitz said, and she quoted Rabbi Breidowitz in this book, and she said that the test is, you know what's the greatest test? And I promise you, you've all seen this. The greatest test is when you have the food coming down every day. You don't have to worry about anything. Are you still going to be following in the path of God? Where you don't have we can all understand having to pray to God for parnasa. Parnasa, if you're worried about that, you come and you daven. But when you're the greatest test is when you have nothing to worry about. Will you still be walking in the path of Hashem? That's what Rabbi Breidowitz said. You follow that, David? Yeah.
I've never referred to that
Yeah.
in the Yom Kippur service. When we talk about who has the rights to the farmer, people who will farm the land all year long, they're allowed to do one harvest. Oh, wait, that's in Sukkot?
Yeah.
That they aren't allowed to farm the corners of the yard.
Yeah, exactly.
They, however, are subject to the same rules. They're obligated to give a minimum 10%, not allowed to give more than 20% of their gleanings, even though they didn't do work within the whole year. That is a scaled way of holding people accountable, keeping them humble.
Exactly right. Beautiful.
Each other. There's in every society I've come across these. It seems a human characteristic to stratify. One person works for another, they don't get treated, aren't brought to the same table. People, no matter how much they want to deny it, they may have certain friends that they'll invite into their home, but they wouldn't associate with them in public at work or going out to dinner. But they're friends from childhood, so they have that foundation. There's people look to each other and establish levels from the minute they meet.
Exactly right. That's what the Torah is trying to legislate against. You're exactly right, Eliezer. And thank you for that. And this is what the Magen Mezrich, she goes back to what this is maybe the source of Rabbi Breidowitz, is this Magen Mezrich. The Magen Mezrich says the test was to see whether or not they're still going to have fear of God. Because if you're sure you'll have parnasa, you have no concern, that's a greater test than being poor and believing in God. The greater test than being poor and believing in God is having money and having like a trust fund baby. A person who's born from life and they have nothing to worry about at all. There are people like that. So the question is, are you still going to live your proper life? Or are you still going to be pushing every single day? Are you still going to have the drive? Are you still going to push to try and make a difference in your life? So if you're poor, then it's memela. If you're poor, you come to a synagogue to pray. But if you're rich, why do you need to go? That's the test. You don't buy that date, Reb David?
The perfect example of that, and my father made this observation.
Yeah.
At UJA Super Sunday,
Yeah.
Tuesday, I guess it was Super Sunday. He was on the phone and he was just aghast because they give you that breakdown, how much the person gave before, who they are, what's their title, what to ask for, what to increase, all of that. He said he was horrified by how the people with the best addresses, the best jobs, the best money, the best everything else gave the least. And the people that were the poorest, the alone, the elderly, the ones that suffered the most, they were the ones that consistently not only gave more, offered to give more than less. Because they felt that they knew
It's beautiful. So I saw another explanation. Shkoyach Rebbe Ellen. I saw another explanation from the Kiyos Moshe. And he says the following. Then I'll give you one story about this. The Kiyos Moshe says a beautiful explanation. He says, what was the test for the mun if you're going to walk in the Torah? He says the test is that the mun, everybody tasted in the mun, it was like a special food that you all tasted whatever you wanted. You all tasted whatever you want. Now, the path of the Torah is to eat bread and salt, bread and salt, bread and salt, and drink a little bit of water. Now, the people who are truly pious, they just wanted to eat in the mun enough to satisfy their taste. But those who were the gluttonous, they said, I want to taste everything. I want to be gluttonous. Meaning to say that we can really tell what this person's, it's like the secret magical food, and you can see the person's desires as a result of the food. Let me tell you this story. Here's a story about the Hasidim. There was a famine, and they came to the Rishner. Oh, the Rishner, Rebbe. They came to him, and they requested from him that he should pray for them that the rain will come down. The Rebbe said, what do you mean? It says in the Torah, if you walk in my path, I'll give you rain in the proper time. So that's what you need to do. So one of the villagers said, why are you telling us about the Torah? With the Torah, without the Torah, we need rain. So when the tzaddik heard them speaking like this, he got up and went into his room and he didn't respond. So one of them was trembling and he said, Rebbe, it says, Manna no senu, I'm going to test you whether you go on my path of the Torah or not. Meaning to say, whether or not we go on the path of the Torah, God promises us that he's going to give us the mun. So therefore, ignore what this Jew said. Even though he was speaking disrespectfully to you, ignore him. So the Rebbe went out and prayed for the rain. I'll give you the story again one more time. So basically, God says, I'm going to give you the mun, and that'll test you. So what they needed the Rebbe to pray for rain, and the Rebbe said, if you keep the mitzvahs, it'll rain. And the simple villager said, stop telling me about the Torah, just give us a bracha for rain. So the Rebbe got insulted and he went back into his house. So when he did that, one of the Hasidim said, no, you see from the Torah that Hashem gave us the mun, whether or not we deserved it at that time. He just gave us the mun regardless. And so that's the same idea here, that you're supposed to give it to us regardless. And so the Rebbe went out and made the bracha. Yes.
Two, well, I will tell them if I'm using too much time. The first one is my father said he had it easy. Because he was raised in poverty, because they had struggled, the whole family had to work together. They lived in basically a shtetl up in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. The whole community was dependent on each other. So he said he had it easy. Because he had lower expectations, he could freely give. It was easier to part with money, to share with.
Because he had no expectations. Beautiful.
He respected the people that had and still gave because he knew it, how much of us turned him.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Hey, Elon, Yoav, how you doing? How you doing? Good, good, good. All right. So now the pasuk tells us, and it was on the 6th day, and they prepared that which they will bring. Mishneh, and it will be double. It will be double. It will be double. Mishneh al asher yokatu yom yom. It will be double that which they collect every day. And this, by the way, we want to just say how true a pasuk this is. On the 6th day, when you prepare for the Shabbos is double every day. The Shabbos is double of what we prepare every day. The Gemara says that v'haya is an expression of joy. V'haya lashon simcha. The joy that a person has on the 6th day for Shabbos, this itself is the preparation for Shabbos. Yom HaShishi ve'echinu. If you properly prepare for Shabbos, it'll be an incredible blessing of joy for the Shabbos.
You know the story of the tzaddik and the wood gatherer?
Tell us the story.
That tzaddik, so holy, lived his life so well, and so pure and dedicated, that the angel of death warning came to him a day early, so he could put his affairs in order. And the tzaddik said, okay, as long as you're giving me warning, I ask you a favor, one more favor. Tell me, who am I gonna spend eternity with studying in preparation?
Oh, yeah, this is the Baal Shem Tov, yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah,
So, I'm okay, gave him the name and number. Thought he dropped everything because nothing was more important. So he just takes off, you've heard this?
yeah,
Tell the story.
you tell it, tell
Tell
it.
them.
Drops everything, because the most important thing for him now is to know who's he gonna spend eternity with. So he going down this path, people calling out to him, hello, he's just focused on his mission. Finds his way down to this place in the woods, far away from everyone else. Going down this path, doesn't know what he's doing out here in the middle of the forest. Finds this tiny little shack, broken down, full of holes. He knocks on the door. There's a noise from within. The door creaks open, and there's this big monster that's horrific looking, slovenly guy, like me. So goes inside. The guy's amazed to see the rabbi come in. The rabbi's famous. Everybody knows the rabbi. Come in. He has two little rickety chairs. He gives the nice one to the rabbi. Please sit down. He's got a pot of gruel cooking over the fireplace, over the fire. He has two little tin cups. He fills one up and hands it to the rabbi, and the rabbi's going, what is going on here? Thinking to himself, how is it possible that this is who I should spend with this illiterate buffoon the rest of eternity? So they drinks the gruel, and the rabbi manages to choke it down. He then says, here, he rolls a cigarette from tobacco he's gathered on the ground during the day when he's gathering sticks to sell to people for fire meat. He breaks the cigarette in half, offers one half to the rabbi, takes the other and sits down and finally smoking. With the rabbi, I don't know what brought you here. I'm honored to have you. I feel like I should tell you about me. You must be wondering why I live like this. When I was a child, my father, who was a little thin wisp of a man, he was a wood gatherer. And as we were walking along him with his bundle of sticks, I was just a tiny child. We were accosted by Cossacks, and they demanded that he renounce Judaism. And he refused, he couldn't. They said on penalty of life, you will do it or we will burn you to death. Well, he was incapable, he would not do it. So they took what he was carrying, dumped him over the center of it, lit on fire. Like that, he went up in a wisp of smoke. In that moment, I decided I'll dedicate my life to being as big as possible. So should ever I be called on